people don't need to be rude to black people and then be nice to white people because we're all the same in our unique colors.
Decades and decades of racism has an impact on Black Canadians. And it's not just mental health. It affects everyday interactions, like the kinds of talks parents have with their children to make sure they don't become bigger targets. That's just one example of multi-generational trauma. With us to talk about this and ways to move forward is clinical therapist and registered social worker Leo D. Edwards and mental health advocate Asante Haughton. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Asante, can you talk a little bit about intergenerational trauma and how that relates to mental health right now?
It is sometimes said that trauma is passed down through generations. And what that means is that if I experience a trauma and I'm affected with my mental health, there are going to be impacts in my social life, my family life, my economic life. And then if I've been mistreated and abused, I learn a certain way to move through the world that may not be conducive to or may not be adaptive to me. So then I'm passing that down to my children. And that's what they're learning. And then they're passing it down to their children. And without any intervention, which can look personal, familial, and systemic, those things carry on and move forward throughout generations.
Let's talk about bias, because a lot of people, I think, are afraid to be pointed to or to admit that they have bias. But the truth is, we all have bias. It is based on our lived experience, and sometimes it manifests in hidden ways here in Canada.
I think what is really important when we're talking about race politics and people's identity is often folks' intentions may be pure and may be honest, but the impact on the other end can be really, really helpful. So what I would advise is that it is really important that if folks are unsure about what needs to be said in conversation to the Black people and the Black community, is that they should research and be connected.
And what do you tell them? What are some tips that you give them or advice dealing with the situation that we're all living in right now?
One is ensuring that your basic needs are being met, so that you're drinking water and you're eating well and you're sleeping. I think another one that is important to talk about is really feeling all your feelings. So if you feel rage and you feel frustration and you feel sad, that is all right. Those are very valid feelings to have in this moment. And I think another one as well is celebrating Black joy and community. Our experience, although individual, is very collective. And so it will be really important to celebrate Black joy and to affirm their identity in their Blackness, because Black is indeed beautiful and powerful.
Asante, you are a mental health advocate. You are also a father. How have you explained what's happening in the world to your child? And also, what is the talk that many Black parents have to have right now?
The challenge for me is, one, being able to articulate what is happening in the world and how they might experience the world, because they're often confused about why did I, for instance, with my own kid, why are some kids allowed to wear hoodies in the lunchroom, but he's not? And we had to take it all the way to the lunch staff and to the principal and really dive deeply into that, as he knows something is happening, but he may not be able to articulate it. Or another instance where he was in a store and his friend might have been doing something that he shouldn't have been doing, and then my reaction to that is a level of anger that it comes out of me, because what I'm trying to do is protect him, because one mistake could be the end of his future. So it's really hard to articulate these things sometimes, and to provide the space for those conversations, because you also want to preserve his innocence and not wanting him to deal with adult issues before he's an adult. Unfortunately, the world is treating him like, or may treat him like an adult, and is treating him like an adult before he even gets there. So it's a tough balance.
Leo, Asante, your insight has been so valuable in this conversation. I thank you so much for your time.